Braves the waves of the English Channel when Sport Relief presents his big swim tonight at 8. But right now, BBC One's Behind Bars.
Morning. Behind bars this morning. You arrive just as there is a major incident kicking off again on the wing. The officers have come in from all areas and are sourcing through it. They appear to have... The alarm has just been switched off and they're now gathering. Let me come round this way because some of the officers don't necessarily want to be seen here. Come round this way to me. As and when we know what's happening, we will of course try and let you know. But you can hear from the noise in here that an incident has broken out just as we've gone on air. In the meantime, whilst we sort this out, we'll go straight over to Nadia and we'll tell you what's going on in the programme today.
Hi there. Now, today, behind bars, if you were in prison, how would you like it if the person next door to you in your cell read all your love letters before you did? Well, here in Cardiff Prison, some inmates think it's a great idea. Find out why later.
Also today, being a woman in a man's world is bad enough, but when the men in question are prisoners, you need special skills.
There are 754 men locked up here, male prisoners, at any one time when we're full. So you've got to have deaf ears and broad shoulders if things are going to be shouted out the windows, and you just have to be selectively deaf.
OK, we're clearing down into a different area now because behind this gate is what the prisoners call the countryside, although its correct name is the therapeutic landing. Can I come in, Julian? Thank you very much. The rest of the prison they actually call London, believe it or not. But if you can't cope with city life and you're being bullied, and who knows quite what's going on upstairs there, but if you are being bullied, down here is where they'll send you. So I'm going to go now and talk to a prisoner. No, we're not going to identify, but because the reason he's here is because he's being bullied. So you hang on there. I'm going to go into this cell over here. All right, let's talk this through and find out how this works. The bullying, are we talking about physical bullying?
No, mental.
So give me an example of the sort of things that constitute mental bullying. What's happened to you?
I came into prison and I've got a disability on the out. And if I was upstairs, it would affect myself being able to do day-to-day activities like other prisoners do. So when people come into the prison, other prisoners, they're used to having like a control of their lives. When they come into a prison environment, that control's taken off them. So then they like to direct...
If they have control of you, they have some control of something, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have that power which they used to have on the out.
So they take things off you?
They can do, yeah. They ask you indirectly for belongings or canteen.
OK. I mean, the thing is, people at home will say, this is what happens if you come into prison. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have come in here.
But the difference is some people on the out have got illness or disability, or those illnesses and disabilities can affect their day-to-day activities like it does on the out. So putting them in a prison with other prisoners who haven't got the same problems as them wouldn't help them at all. That's why this landing was created in the first place. It was for people who were ill, disabled, couldn't conform to normal prison life because they can't adapt to the atmosphere. Okay. And that's why some people are down here.
All right, well, I know you were very nervous about talking to us, obviously, in case it caused you more bullying. I'm going to go outside and talk to... thank you very much. We're going to go outside and talk. Let me just show you something by a sign over here. And by the way, I will tell you, huge number of officers upstairs at the moment. There is a security something going on. We don't know what it is. If we find out what it is, I'll let you know, obviously. And it had literally kicked off just as we were about to go live. The therapeutic landing, statement of purpose. The aim of the therapeutic landing to manage prisoners who have difficulty coping with prison life or have medical issues that prevent them from remaining on normal location. Ken, talk us through this, because isn't it just the nature of the fact, if you're a prisoner, if you have committed a crime, you have to come in and deal with the situation in the prison?
Yes, but what we will do is make sure prisoners are supported in the correct manner. People who are vulnerable and can't cope with normal prison regime are assessed and, some circumstances, come onto our therapeutic regime where they get the appropriate support.
OK. It sounds... How can I put it? It sounds soft. You know,
Well, it's not.
It's very tough on the prisoners, so we'll bring them down here and look after them.
But it's not. Remember that prisoners are taken away from their normal environment, taken away from their family, etc. And people who are vulnerable outside in the community also they'll be more vulnerable in prison.
You do have now suicide is a big problem, isn't it, within prison?
The suicide rate has gone up in recent years, but so is suicide in the community. The prison service have put a lot of emphasis on reducing suicide and self-harm, and Cardiff has put a lot of resources into this issue.
Yeah, and in fact you've been very successful in reducing the number of suicides.
Yeah, the Safer Custody Group in London feel that Cardiff has the lowest self-harm rate in the local prisons in the country. So, yeah, we are very successful.
Okay, and it's interesting because one of the warders, one of the officers actually said to me, the only time we ever get in the news is when we lose one, never when we save people, which they do a lot here. Okay, thank you very much, Colonel. Maybe we'll come back to this.
Thank you.
Drake Hall Women's Prison near Stafford is a semi-open prison that couldn't be more different to the regime here in Cardiff. Inmates have the keys to their own rooms and a life the men here would consider luxury. So how do you keep order?
Come on in then, Tracy. Want to have a seat there?
At Drake Hall, there's a simple yet effective way of enforcing discipline through a system of privileges.
Tom, I think you're applying for enhanced, aren't you?
Enhanced privileges for those who obey the rules, down to basic privileges for those who just won't toe the line.
As you can appreciate, the basic levels are the ones that are really struggling to comply with any of the instructions that they're given.
But Tracy's not one of them.
State that Tracy seems to have developed a more positive attitude lately towards both staff and prison rules and shown respect. She has tried very hard with her behaviour and proved that she can abide by rules and regulations.
Well, what a difference 3 months makes, Tracy. I almost gave up hope on you in March, but I have to say it's pleasing to see somebody that's turned something around from something that was so negative to something that is quite positive now. Some prisoners would say that our boundaries are very petty, I think is a word that often comes up. But as I say to them, if we're bringing you into this environment, then a lot of responsibility for your behaviour comes back to you. You know, this is where you start to learn to behave and abide by what you appear to think are petty rules. But if you can't abide by the petty rules, then you're going to break the big rules. You deserve your enhanced. You'll have your enhanced for your last 6 weeks. Okay. Cheers, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Standard and enhanced have access to televisions in their room and more or less free access around the prison. Basic prisoners, they are moved location. They have to come and live on the unit with the staff, where the staff are based. They lose their TVs. They lose their radios. They are not allowed to have free access around the prison. And they also get improvement targets. So there's a lot of pressure on them then to improve their behaviour.
Okay.
Lisa was only moved up from basic a week ago and she's already in trouble again.
Morning, Lisa.
Morning.
All right, you're back here again. Last week I moved you up to standard, didn't I?
Yeah.
You'd spent quite a spell on basic and we felt that it was time that we gave you some responsibility back. Now I understand that you've appealed the warning that you were given.
Yeah, but I'd just like to say another thing as well. I have improved. As you can see, I was getting warnings every day.
Lisa, you know I know you've improved because you sit in front of me on a regular monthly basis. So I know you've improved. And I give you credit for that. But it's about thinking things through, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, on this occasion, I'm not going to drop you back down to basic. I don't think we'll achieve anything with that. But you've still got a long way to go before you hit anywhere near enhanced level.
Yeah, I know.
So, you know, you need
I'm
to
trying.
maintain it. You're very
I is trying.
You're absolutely right. Okay then, Lisa,
Yeah,
thank
nice
you.
one, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. She makes me laugh. We have had prisoners who, they improve slightly for a couple of weeks and then they'll dip back down again. If they consistently refuse to comply with the prison, then the ultimate is that we will transfer them back to closed prisons because they're no longer suitable for this environment.
But still to come, one of the most troublesome prisoners at Drake Hall.
Now, don't worry, anybody. We found out that that was just a minor incident, wasn't it, Steve? On one of the other wings, and everything's fine. Now, we are on E Wing, where most of Cardiff's lifers are held, but it's very quiet at the moment because they're actually all at work. Now, there are 91 prisoners here. 2/3 of them are murderers, but it's one of the safest places to put the barber shop, complete with razor blades and sharp scissors. Why is that? Why is it safer here?
Well, it's a quiet wing. It's a more static population, so we can monitor it, and it's been all risk assessed. So we find that it's probably the best place to put it.
The best place to put it. Now, we've talked quite a bit, Steve, haven't we? We were chatting yesterday, and I've certainly learned an awful lot about the prison service, and it is a service. I mean, I really only got my impression of prison officers really from bad dramas.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But I think it's one of the missed professions, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. We do a lot of good work, and it would be nice if the wall was made of glass so people could see exactly what we do in here.
Exactly, because it's all behind here. We don't think about you guys, really, do we?
No, no.
And you were saying to me, I mean, a policeman might meet a dangerous person, what, once a month, maybe?
Yeah.
But actually, you guys are here with them all the time.
All the time.
No, we never think of these guys. We never thank them on Christmas Day, do we? Like, we do the ambulance service, the National Health.
We're forgotten sometimes, and
you are
we do a lot of good work in here.
You do a lot of good work, and this barber shop here, actually, yes. You do some good work. Can you think of an example, a success story from your barber shop?
Yes, we've had one lad that went out and got a job in a barber shop. He was a repeat offender. He was made manager at one point. Unfortunately, he did come back in again. But he's gone out again, and he's been out for the last year or so.
You've not seen him? That's what they like to see when they don't see them back. Well, here we are, a proper barber shop, and we can go up here, aren't we? And hi there. You carry on with your work. Now, tell me, did you carry on? I don't want to stop you. I'll talk to you through the mirror. Did you ever imagine the out that you'd be a hairdresser?
No, never.
No. And how's it thought of in the prison? A very sort of macho place. How's it thought of?
I think you've got a good rapport now, and it's well thought of.
It's well thought of, John.
And when we go round the wings, everybody's just waiting
Yeah.
for us to get on. I think it's appreciated by everybody.
Yeah. So do you think it's something you'll do when you get out?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah. And are you training? Are you taking?
I'm finish off a level 2. Hopefully, I can take on a level 3 then and take it from there.
Cool. Okay, that's the MVQ, isn't it? Isn't it, Mike? Yeah. And now you're a bit of the expert on the patterns, aren't you? Have you just done that now?
Yeah.
Is that what you enjoy doing most?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Looks forward to doing it.
Yeah. And do you think that you'll carry this on when you go out?
Hopefully. I think I've got a job lined up for it. So.
Did you do this guy's hair here?
No, the trainer, the teacher who comes in, then
Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask actually, because it is like a working barber shop.
Yes, exactly.
Do you charge?
It's 25 pence an haircut. It is.
25 pence a haircut.
25 pence.
And you actually go round the prison, don't you, to the wings?
There's 750 men that need a haircut, so it's the ideal place to learn this trade. So we go round the wings and we cut hair, and they get as much practice as they need.
And who gets the 25 pence?
I pay it as a bonus to the boys at the end of the month, depending on how much work they do. So they're actually earning their own money, so it's more like real life.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, as you saw, a very dramatic start to the programme when an alarm had gone off, and we saw all the officers running onto this wing and I have to say, surrounding us and making sure that we were safe, but also dealing with the incident. Andy can tell us now what that incident was about.
Yeah, while we were locking up, a prisoner refused to go away. A member of staff attempted to put the prisoner behind this door. The prisoner then attempted to assault that member of staff, which is when you heard the bell, and that's when the staff attempted. The prisoner's been dealt with in the appropriate way. He's now in a segregation unit. The staff are filling out the paperwork, having a cup of tea, trying to relax a bit. We've had the doctor over to see the member of staff. The care team coming up now to have a look.
You can hear us disturb the wing. How is the member of staff? Is he well?
Yeah, we've just got medical staff looking at him now, and obviously the care team will be coming along as well.
Okay. All right. As the recent killing in Feltham has shown, thanks very much, Andy. We'll come back to you later. As the recent killing in Feltham has shown, it's vital not to put the wrong two prisoners together in the same cell. So every short-term prisoner here is given a full assessment at the start of their sentence.
Hi. Do you remember we spoke first thing this morning when you came in last night and you weren't on the right landing really because you were waiting to come to this wing, the detox wing.
Right.
All I wanted to reaffirm with you now is that you are on my list, but we have to give you the 4 days now for your medication to start working.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'll see you in 4 days.
All right.
All right, take care.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.
Sarah Rowe's job is to assess new prisoners at Cardiff Prison to make sure they're placed on the appropriate wing. This morning, Sarah has 2 prisoners to see. The first arrived last night and is waiting to be assessed.
All prisoners either go to our induction landing or our detox landing upon their reception to custody. I must point out to you at this moment in time, I don't know actually what you've been sentenced for.
Burglary.
It's burglary, is it? Okay.
First on our list is to check if the prisoner needs to go through detox.
Ian, was there any drug use before you came into custody?
No.
Nothing in the last 30 days? No. No, okay. Is alcohol a problem for you? No? All right. I didn't come from a prison or custodial background. I actually relocated to Cardiff from Mid Wales. On my background, I just qualified with a law degree.
Having established that the prisoner doesn't need to go to detox, Sarah runs through a long list of questions to make sure he's placed on the appropriate wing. But there's a problem.
All right. Are you quite concerned you haven't been in touch with anybody? Do you think they know where you are?
Well, I think my partner. I need to get in touch with my partner.
His partner has no idea that he's been sent to prison and he doesn't have a contact number for her.
Would there be any way... have you got a landline?
No.
It's all on mobile, so I can't trace that through directory inquiries. I think your best idea, to be honest, at the moment, is to get the letter sent out. If you think in the meantime of any other way that we can make contact with your family for you, let us know.
Morgan is then sent to the induction landing while Sarah goes to the detox wing to see the next prisoner. And we'll be back with Sarah later. Now I'll introduce you to Jerry, who's come in and is going to talk us through a cell. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go in,
right,
and we'll look at it from inside, looking back, so that you can have a look at it. And it looks like any other cell, really, except that it has a flat ceiling, which is unusual.
That's correct, Nick. Every other cell has an arched ceiling, but as you can see, this one has
have a look. Look, there you go.
As you can see, this one has a flat ceiling, and the one next door, because above it was where the gallows was. And the trapdoor was in the ceiling here, and then when they were hung, they used to drop down. This is where they dropped down into, and where they died. But
that's a bit strange to be in here now. So how many people were hung here?
Well, between 1900 and 1965, when hanging was suspended.
Hanged or hung? Hanged.
Well, hung.
Okay.
There was 20 in Cardiff, and there was 19 men and 1 woman.
Right. Who was the last one?
The last one was in 1952 was Mahmoud Matan.
Right.
And in 1998, the conviction was overturned and at the appeal court.
So the last person
to be hung here
was innocent.
Was innocent, correct.
Well, there's your argument. So the longer you stay in here, you start to look at when the prisoners kick off and all the rest of it, and people talk about hanging, and yet you find yourself in a cell where someone died and was in here who was innocent.
That's correct. Yes.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? It's now used as a cell for prisoners, and they are aware that it's a former hanging room.
Well, I think that they are aware. The prisoners who are here at the moment are aware, and
a couple of famous prisoners through here as well in the past. Didn't the guy who shot Martin Luther King? Wasn't he held in this jail?
No, that was in Wandsworth. He was held.
Oh, was it?
Yes, he was. But he was held under the same conditions as a condemned man.
Was that right?
And for security reasons, because it was so highly political at the time.
Of course it was, yeah.
And they had to get him back to America alive because of all the race riots there.
Isn't there some rule that the people who died through hanging, through capital punishment, are not then buried in sacred ground? So
that's right.
So where would the people who here have been buried?
It was within the prison. It had to be in unconsecrated ground where they were buried, so they were all buried in the prison.
And where is that now?
It's just over the other side of the hospital from here, only about 50 yards away from here.
Is it open ground?
Yes, it is, and it was kept as a garden until recently. It's been they've been moved now though, and some of the ones that were there have been taken out and given back to the families because it's been changed now. They can be buried in consecrated ground.
Okay, and you are longest serving officer. I was just checking that on one.
Yes, apparently so. So I've been told. Yes,
really?
In the service. Yeah.
How long?
40 years in May just gone.
Do you know what? I just the way that the prisoners have all kicked off upstairs, in all shouting, all banging on themselves, assaulted an officer.
Yeah.
And you can actually hear them kicking off again. Is it? Why do you do it?
Well, I've just enjoyed it over the years, Nick. It's.
Don't you get nervous every day you walk in, worrying that you're going to be injured? There's an officer upstairs that could be injured. We don't know how bad. He's been seeing a medical officer. Don't you walk in being frightened of that?
Well, I haven't seen him cross the road and be run over. It's part and parcel of the job, and you know you accept it as being a prison officer.
It's interesting because the prison officers don't always get the best press, do they?
No, they don't. And over the years we've had some really bad press. So. Actually, this sort of thing now for us is quite good because it actually sees it as it is.
Well, I hope so. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Nadia.
Thank you, Nick. Now we're going back to Drake Hall in Stafford to meet a woman who believes short, sharp prison sentences just don't work. She's pleased she's finally been given a longer spell in jail. Yvonne's a repeat offender. At just 25, she's already been in prison 7 times.
When I was a teenager, all my mates used to go out robbing cars, and that's how I got banned, because I used to get caught in the stolen cars, and from then it just like escalated, and now I've got seven charges of it.
Hi, Mr. D.
Are you doing all right?
Yeah.
With no qualifications, Yvonne had little chance of bettering herself.
No.
Have you ever had a driving lesson?
No.
You've never had a driving lesson?
As part of an NVQ in gardening, she's now learning to drive a lawnmower, a far cry from her joyriding past.
I carried on robbing cars because I thought I'm only a teenager, I won't be able to get put in prison. But as soon as I was 16, I did.
The short sentences for driving while banned clearly didn't stop Yvonne from committing more crime.
You do? Right. Jump on the machine.
When you get a short sentence, all they do is just leave you in your room now. Most of the time they don't even get you a job. They just leave you because you're not here long enough for a job.
As well as her gardening course, Yvonne's completed a number of programmes to stop her re-offending. But her lack of basic education is causing her problems. She can't even add up the items she needs from the prison shop.
Let's have to do it again.
In maths class, Yvonne's going to get the everyday skills she'll need to survive back on the outside.
Right, today we were going to look at rounding.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the things that we can use quite easily out in the big wide world. Do you go and shop every week at Aramon?
Yeah.
You do? OK, what types of things do you buy?
Tobacco, toiletries.
OK, so do you want to write a couple of things down as to what type of things you would buy?
OK.
With Yvonne, she's working towards gaining maths qualifications so that she can actually develop her own skills, and we can start to plan what money she's got coming in and how she's going to spend it.
So where do I put that?
Just 0 and 0, because there's going to be no pennies at all.
So that's 1.
Yeah, that would be £1. Yes.
2.
Yeah.
£9. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's 8.
They've got to be able to work out what bills they're going to have. They've got to be able to say that they can afford to pay the gas, electric, their council tax. Otherwise, they're going to end up in a situation where they're going to turn to crime to help pay for the things that they need. How good are your calculator skills?
Not that good.
OK. With Yvonne, she's got to think about planning for herself for the future, and this is the start of that. It's the last one now, so you can put your equals sign in.
Equals.
OK, Yvonne, now, we've had a go at that now before. Would you have been able to do that before?
No, I just get everything I needed and go up to the counter and hope that I had enough money.
And hope that you had enough money. Did you ever come across the situation where maybe you didn't have enough money?
Yeah.
And what did you have to do then?
Put some things back.
Right, OK. So you'll budget a lot more easily, wouldn't you? OK, so that's something you can do for the future.
With all she's learned, Yvonne's determined not to go back to her old ways.
Because of being in there, all the things I've learnt in there, and just being in there itself, I don't think I'll go back to that crowd. I want to go out and have a fresh start with my family and my kids.
week, we've been seeing that there's a very different approach to prison life at Drake Hall. It seems to work, but is life too easy? I went there to ask the governor. Now, John, we've seen quite a bit of your prison this week.
Yeah.
And some people may say that this is a soft option. Women are being educated, there's beautiful gardens, have keys, their own keys. What would you say?
Well, I would say what you need to understand really is the type of person that we're actually looking after at Drake Hall, and to understand some of the background to them. In so much as it's quite often the first time anyone's been in custody at all. The women who've been abused, both sexually and violently, quite often both. Women who've got a long history of drug abuse on many occasions, from homeless backgrounds or chaotic lifestyles. And it's important to be able to create a nice environment where people feel they don't want to self-harm, for example, don't feel that they need to buck against the system, but are able to actually engage positively in the opportunities that we've got to offer. Because if we don't do that, then all we're going to do is release people more dangerous than when they came to us. So I think the type of atmosphere that we're looking after people shouldn't be underestimated in creating an environment where they feel they're able to benefit from the opportunities that we've got.
Well, able to raise their self-esteem, education. Do you mean all of that sort of stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
What impact does that have, do you think, on the community when they then go back out?
Well, I think that if we can actually provide people with the opportunities to rebuild their lives, to go out into the community, most of our women are primary carers, and if we can actually provide them as a positive role model for their own children, then we're actually going to be in a position to break the cycle of offending.
Of course, this is what's so important, isn't it? People might forget that actually most of the women here have children.
Absolutely, yes.
And you don't want that next generation coming in here,
No, not at all, no. I mean, I think it's a golden opportunity for us to make a real difference to reducing reoffending in the community, therefore a difference to the public in terms of crime and the fear of crime.
Can you think, obviously you can't give any names away, but is there a story of a person that you sort of hold to your heart that would be a perfect example of what you do here?
Well, it's quite strange actually, because I remember a young woman that came to us as a young offender, and she was addicted to cocaine at a very early age, at the age of 12 I think it was. She came to us from a very chaotic background, quite a challenging young woman, and we provided her with education, rebuilt her confidence, got her off drugs, and I was sat in my office over there, and I looked out and saw the someone over there in a trouser suit with her hair up, who'd been for a job interview, had been successful in getting the job, and that person's now released, clean of drugs, has got her own job, her own place to live, and has got every opportunity of raising a family that are not going to be involved in crime.
That is what your job is all about here, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's how I spend the money that I'm allocated properly, in terms of protecting the public. Yes.
Fantastic. Listen, thanks ever so much for letting us be here, John.
No.
They call it a Dear John letter. It's the one you get when the one you love tells you it's over, and all too often it happens to men in prison. But what if you can't read? Who gives you the bad news? I'll tell you who does it. Glyn, on this occasion. Glyn is a reader, in the sense that you read for other people. Is there a title for you?
No, it's just the toe by toe it is. What it is, I read the letters to the other lads who can't read. I also write the letters when they can't write a letter to send out to their loved ones.
Just quickly, how many people can't read when they come into prison?
There's 30% below level 1 in English that come into the prisons.
30%?
37%.
37%?
Yeah.
More than a third are below level 1 in reading skills?
Yes, yes.
It's extraordinary. OK, so what sort of letters do you read?
Loved ones write in about about the life on the outside, about the children in school, and basically that.
We talked about the Dear John letters, where bad news letters, you have to read those to them too.
Yeah, that can be difficult when someone writes in and doesn't want to know them anymore.
We've been breaking off a relationship.
Breaking off a relationship, yeah. It's very difficult to read a letter to someone about that. Yeah, it's very upsetting for them, and it affects me as well.
And what's the most upsetting kind of letter that you get to read?
From the solicitors normally, when they tell them that there's no point in going for bail or something like that, or to plead guilty on a charge. That can upset the prisoner.
Of course. And you mentioned children earlier. I should imagine some of the letters to fathers from the children must be quite heavy going.
Some of them quite funny as well, of the children, yeah. It's really humorous, yeah. I find them funny sometimes, like.
Do you have to be aware when you're reading these letters that how upset a prisoner is with what you've read? Because we were talking this morning about, you know, people being suicidal and keeping suicide watch and keeping an eye on prisoners. And obviously, receiving bad news can be something that can kick that off.
Yeah, you can normally tell by them they get really upset and try and comfort them. I normally go in the office and speak to one of the officers, Mr. Killick or Mr. Jones or Mr. Thomas, explain to them what the letter they just had, and they normally go and keep an eye on them.
Not only reading though, presumably for those people you write letters back too.
Yeah, it's difficult writing letters when they want to put some ranchy things in there. I mean, I do draw a line, yeah.
Do you draw the line?
I do draw the line sometimes, yeah. I mean, they want to see things that...
personal things?
Personal things, yes. And letters coming in are quite personal, yeah. I mean...
I can imagine that'd be quite embarrassing at times.
Yeah, they do. They don't seem to find it, but I do when I'm reading them.
Do you? OK, and you actually... I should mention this as well, because you actually teach people to read, don't you?
Yeah, it's a toe by toe. It's set up by the Shannon Trust. What it is, it's a manual that's designed for people with learning difficulties or dyslexia. I go through the manual with them, mark it up, and if they move from this wing to another wing, there's another mentor there who will take over and know where this lad has started and finished, and they're open to expand it to other prisons and hopefully on the outside so that they can learn to read. And
you see this as a very positive way of spending your time?
Yeah, because most of these lads who can read have never been employed at all. And when you ask them why they haven't been employed, the reason is they can't read the forms. So it's very difficult for them to go and get a job.
All right, OK. Very interesting stuff. Back to you, Nadia.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, I'm going to be talking to Steve later, who's one of those very people who has learnt to read and write in prison. But first, as you will have noticed today from the prisoners we've spoken to, drug addiction is one of the main reasons why men are here. But when they're assessed on arrival, many prisoners just don't make the connection. Until they do, they're likely to keep coming back. Sarah Rowe's job is to try to stop that happening.
Sarah Rowe is in charge of the prisoner passport scheme at Cardiff, and being a woman in an all-male prison is something she's had to get used to.
You've got to expect there are 754 men locked up here, male prisoners, at any one time when we're full. So you've got to have deaf ears and broad shoulders if things are going to be shouted out the windows, and you just have to be selectively deaf. We've got a prisoner that came in on Monday, so he's had... No, last Friday, sorry. He's had the weekend to start detoxing and having his medication, so we're going to go and do his induction interview now.
I don't believe that it's our job as a prison service to punish the prisoner. I think the punishment is the loss of liberty, as handed down by the courts. Sometimes you have prisons for such a short period of time, really. You can only sort of focus on some of the basics about detoxing people properly, you know, and trying to get them some assistance for when they do leave.
The passport scheme was set up to assess prisoner welfare and identify any risk of reoffending on release.
Hiya, come and have a seat. Because we're looking at the crucial pathways which all help to reduce a prisoner's risk of reoffending, if we can identify those needs at the earliest point, that is the reception to custody, we're actually making a really good start and identifying what work we can offer actually in prison. Before you came into custody on Friday, were you working at all? No. Were you claiming any benefit?
No.
No? I've got to ask the question, what were you living on? Or shouldn't I ask? Is that one of the... So is it safe for me to say there is no income?
Yeah.
All right, OK. I want to talk about your drug use now. I need to find out what you were using. It was drugs, yeah, and alcohol. Was
No,
it
just,
just the heroin?
Yeah.
Okay. How much a week do you reckon, or how much a day do you think your habit
I
was?
spend about £35.
£35 a day.
Yeah.
Do you think drugs have had an effect on your offending behaviour? Are drugs part of the reason that you're in prison at the moment?
No, no, I wouldn't say so, no.
No? OK. Well, thanks for everything and thanks for answering all those questions. If you need to see me again, give me a...
Sarah has her work cut out as the prisoner sees no connection between the crimes he's committed and his £35 a day heroin addiction.
I do really enjoy the job. I've got a fantastic induction department. They work very closely with me. The staff down here are exceptional. They accept the work that I'm doing and assist me in doing that work, so we're very fortunate. Hi!
Now, Steve, Nick was talking earlier to one of the mentors, the people that help other people learn how to read and write.
Right.
And that's what you've done in prison, haven't you?
Yeah, I come to jail. I couldn't read or write. Went to education.
Because you used to play truant a lot from school, didn't you?
All the time.
Yeah. And then you got a job, what, 14? Your first job at 14?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you didn't really need to read and write.
I was earning money without reading and writing, so I had no use for it.
Okay.
Which is stupid.
Yeah.
But I've come to jail. They've taught me to read and write. I wrote my first letter to my sons, telling them how much I love them.
Is that the first time you ever told them you loved them?
Yeah, it's a man thing, innit? So, you know, so I'm very proud of that. I want to learn a little bit more, hopefully end up in college and go out to a job.
Because you're one of the super enhanced prisoners here, aren't you?
Yeah.
And what basically does that mean to you? How have you managed to become one of those?
Keep your head down, no fighting, behaving yourself, keeping the cell clean. That's it, basically, being polite and just being told what to do, what you're meant to do.
And with that means that you get privileges. And you were saying earlier, isn't it, that it's not as scary on the super enhanced wing, is it?
No, it's relaxed. You can wear around flip-flops, your shorts, things, game of snooker.
But you've really earned that, haven't you?
Yeah,
you've earned
it's taken me 19 months to get there.
Yeah, because you've got a real plan, haven't you? You want to learn as much as you can. Is that right?
Yeah.
What is your plan while you're here?
I've learned to read and write. I would like to go to college now to get some qualifications and go straight out to a job.
Now, you really believe, don't you, that if you'd been able to read and write, you wouldn't be here?
No. So I think the prisons should do more with education.
Yeah.
They should make people learn to read and write.
And this is part of why you're really knuckling down, isn't it? Because you want to get into maybe an open prison so that you can then get to college.
Yeah, I've learned as much as I can in this prison now. In education, I've got the toe-to-toe cellmate helping me read a little bit better in the nights. So it's just losing time, you know. So.
And so what's your career plan then when you leave here? Because you want to change your career, don't you?
I want to get a job on a desk.
Good man.
And easy money.
All right, well, listen, best of luck and well done, because you have worked hard. Well done, mate.
Can I say hiya, Mum?
Go on, hiya, Mum. All right, Nick, over to you.
Moving on, prisoner Nicola is a constant trial to the staff at Drake Hall Prison, and now she's gone too far, so much so that she risks being sent back to a closed prison.
The reasons for initiating the referral was that received 5 warnings in a 12-week period.
Nikki has constantly broken the rules since she was transferred to Drake Hall from a closed prison 2 weeks ago. Today, she'll find out if she'll have all but the most basic privileges taken away.
Ms Jeffrey Coleman has received a further warning since her IEP board on the 23rd of the 606 for being rude to healthcare staff, and that was on the 28th of the 606.
Prisoners who consistently behave badly will get warnings and they will end up being reviewed by the Incentives and Earned Privileges Board. Right, Nicola, you were in front of me last week, weren't you?
Yes.
I made it very clear to you at that point that if your behaviour didn't improve, then you would be heading for a spell on basic.
Can I just say, miss, I wasn't particularly rude, I just pointed out fact to the nurses.
Right.
And they took that as being rude.
Okay. Generally, a spell on basic will change their attitude slightly because they don't like the idea that they lose the television. They don't like the idea that they're not allowed to associate generally in the prison, and they don't like the idea that they move on to Bristol House, which is where the staff are located. You also received a warning for being on Richmond House, room 11 on the 28th?
Yeah.
So what was your excuse for being on Richmond?
There ain't one.
You are going to go down to basic. There's no doubt in my mind that you deserve a spell on basic. You'll need to pack up your kit as soon as we've finished here. Pack your kit and come back to the office. They'll allocate you a room. I mean, clearly you can appeal this decision and you'll have a form attached to the formal paperwork that you'll get later on today.
How long is it going to be for?
Well, at the moment, under the current policy, it's a 12-week period. So
it only gets reviewed after 12 weeks?
No, your basic will be reviewed after 4 weeks, but obviously I'm looking for a massive improvement in your behaviour. You're just not getting it at all. So the ball's back in your court. You know, I threw the ball to you last week and you chose not to run with it. You're just making a fool out of the rest of us, and we're not going to have that.
Nikki is banished to Bristol House, where she'll be closely monitored by prison staff.
I could be stuck on here for 12 weeks, which is a long time, really.
If she continues to break the rules, Nikki risks being sent back to a closed prison.
We're actually hurtling towards the end of the programme now, so I've actually called a couple of the officers back in to talk to him, to tie up some of the things we had. We had an incident at the beginning of the show. We talked about it and it was dealt with.
Yeah.
Wanted to check on the condition of the officer.
Yeah, he's fine, thanks, Nick.
He is?
Yeah.
Jolly good. All right, that's left and done with. And I have to say, it was dealt with very quickly. The reason I wanted to come back to this at the end of the show, because I'm genuinely fascinated by why you guys do what you do. And to be honest, I mean, I used to work in news, and when I came in here, I didn't have the best idea of what officers did and how they work in the prison. So, do you see yourselves as like a forgotten service? Do you think? You don't get the good press all the time.
We don't get good press, no. You know, we do a lot of good work. We save a lot of lives every year, but obviously that does make sort of good reading for the public. So it's only when we lose one that we get the publicity, and obviously it's negative publicity, but we do a lot of good work.
And there is no sense, I was saying this earlier, but there is no sense, well, I asked the other officers, of fear when you come into work each day?
No. You wouldn't pick your keys up. If you thought about what could happen, you wouldn't pick your keys up in the morning. You join the service, you know what you're coming into, and it's a hazard of a job.
And you work down here in the special unit that we've talked about down here, and where we can see people working in the background and learning to read. And you see this as a very positive area.
Yes, very positive. It actually helps them to rehabilitate themselves, to go back into normal life on the out. And with the toe-by-toe system, it'll actually get them to actually read their own application forms and letters, which is a great help towards them prisoners.
Okay. Well, the prisoners know what's going on, and that's why they're making a lot of noise in the background. We'll be back here again. That's about it for today. Join us tomorrow for another exclusive and fascinating insight into life at Cardiff and Drake Hall Prison, behind bars, live. See you tomorrow.
Nerves of Steel are needed next on BBC One, buying more homes under the hammer.